Welcome to my show, When Everyone Wins, where a key goal I have for you is shifting from power over and under to power within and between. I'm your host, Judy Ryan. In each episode, I'll share my knowledge from decades in workplace culture transformation and leadership development as the founder and CEO of LifeWorks Systems. I'll help you build trust and emotional and social intelligence. My show, When Everyone Wins, is about creating a life you love and helping others do the same. Welcome, everyone, to today's episode, which is called Creating Win-Win Cultures, Unlocking Human Potential in Teams and Organizations. Unlocking potential requires that we understand what causes potential to expand and also what causes it to contract. Many people don't really focus on the condition of human potential, nor the role that they play in shaping it, even though the health and development of people and their environment are foundational to an organization's competitive advantage and the ability to achieve its business objectives. In this episode, my guest and I will be discussing answers to some of the most important questions to consider. Our conversation will center around the health and vitality of people and culture and the role of win-win practices and what they play in positive outcomes, joy, fulfillment. Boy, wouldn't it be great if we all had that? My guest today is uniquely qualified to discuss this. Not only did she research and write her college thesis on this topic, over the decades and since then, she has passionately advocated for the conditions and conversations that create incredible win-win outcomes. Most importantly, I can personally vouch for the fact that my guest walks the talk of creating life-giving conditions and conversations that bring out the best in people. She causes me to commit to being authentic, caring, and in service. She's maintained passion about win-win organizational culture because she sees win-win relationships as precious and one of the most important factors needed for success and the actualization of good ideas and people. So let me tell you about my guest. Her name is Manuela Batul Giangrande, and she has extensive experience in business strategy, project management, and innovation ecosystems. I love that, innovation ecosystems. We'll be talking about that. Manuela is passionate about bridging the gap between science and business. She's deeply committed to fostering innovation and delivering impactful results that drive sustainable business success. She has a proven track record in strategic planning, research, and building valuable collaborations. She works to solve complex challenges and translate visionary concepts into actionable outcomes. Manuela is also a cultural transformation advocate who helps leaders and teams unlock their full potential. She empowers organizations to create win-win cultures, environments where individuals feel psychologically safe, valued, and empowered to contribute. Through systems-based approaches, which I love, and human-centered strategies, Manuela guides people to operate from authenticity, trust, and shared responsibility, fostering high-performing collaborative teams that thrive in complexity and change. Welcome, Manuela.
Judy, thank you for all this great introduction. I'm grateful to be here with you and to discuss this topic that is very dear to my heart, as you know. Um, a
Yeah.
pleasure, a real pleasure to be here and ready to for the discussion.
Yes. I'm so glad for people to meet you, Manuela. You are one of the most incredible people I have ever met. So, what I'd like to ask you first is how did you first become passionate about organizational culture? And what inspired you to research it and to write about it? Can you tell our audience about that?
Yes, with pleasure. My background, I traveled all my life with my dad, actually, initially, and lived in different countries. So culture was something always very dear to me because since I was a little kid, I was confronted with shifting, different mentalities, different places, different type of people. Uh, for example, I lived in countries like Sri Lanka, where I observed poverty from the start. I was only 6, 7 years old, and I remember it touching me deeply how people there were having completely different struggles than I was facing at that age, uh, with a comfortable family. They did not have food. They did not have. So culture has always touched me, and more than culture was how people and connections in that context were overcoming the difficulties. And I saw differences. I also lived, for example, in Venezuela at that time, quite different. I lived with neighbors that were very well off, completely different from what I'd seen, before. So it was this constant change that made me love culture and the differences and the meanings behind it. Then I decided to do a PhD in France, and I decided to study emotions and motivation during cultural change. And my organization was one of the biggest utility companies, and there I saw the reaction of employees from um, all the hierarchy, and some of them honestly spoke to me with on open heart. They were so hurt that they wanted to commit suicide.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and they expressed this very difficult, because I was interviewing them for my thesis, and it was very difficult to hear this. And this it, but this just increased my love and my attention to, we're supposed to be living here on earth, and be all the time happy about living here on earth and working interconnected with each other. And it should be a game played together. I'll call it game, but it's a lot more than that in reality. But we should be interconnected, and each one of us can actually support the rest, and the whole ecosystem can have a happy living together life, and surmounting all the difficulties and problems. There's no need to live in silos, and keep being separate and fighting each other. And I saw that in the company. I saw a lot happening, and through the emotions and the motivations, finally, what struck me was that the key was others. Okay, the people that saw in others that motivation were able to surpass even a very difficult change, which was privatization. And the company in France was, oh, before this privatization, they were always happy, always going out and helping people out. Now they were being pushed towards profits, and which meant not going out in the field and helping when it was snowing and the electricity was cut. And but the people that remain connected, grounded on that other, we need to help others, managed to surpass the profit, the new direction of the company, and survive. So I understood that from there that we are motivated not only by ourselves, we're motivated by others. In reality, everything we do is motivated by an interplay between ourselves and others. So that's how I started viewing the world differently, and from then on, it just continued to develop. In the companies, in whatever I did, I saw more and more of this. So others are very important. Connection is very important. We have to be connected with others and understand. Uh, we often say put ourselves in others' shoes, right?
Yes.
Yes, we should be doing that continuously. Uh,
Yeah,
that will lead that will
I
lead to better outcomes.
I think what I hear you saying is that you were able to recognize this full range of experiences that people were going through, from extreme poverty to extreme wealth, and also seeing that what really kind of killed the spirit of people was, and I hope I'm not putting words in your mouth, but was this idea that um, getting wealth in this company was more important than really understanding what people's lives are like, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yes,
Even in Sri Lanka, where the poverty was so, bad, you saw ways that people overcame, and you
yes,
saw the importance of um, the understanding, the empathy, and the connection. I remember a friend of mine went to South Africa for a couple months, and she said everybody should go to South Africa for a couple months because they only could take a shower like once every couple of days, and it had to be outside with a bamboo fence around it, and it was cold. And she said, we're so spoiled, and we don't walk in each other's shoes. So
Yes.
I think by you seeing all of that contrast from a young child, broaden your lens about people, and then seeing what we focus on and how that affects our joy or our peace. Am I hitting that right? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Yes. Couldn't
Yeah.
have said it better, Judy.
Well, good. Well, you said it pretty good. So I know that you're a very creative person. Like you are kind of this wonderful blend of right brain, left brain. You know, um, I like to think of it also as feminine, masculine. You know, thinking and feeling. And so when I think about your artistic background and how that kind of fuels you and enables you to approach even business development and challenges with fresh imaginative solutions, can you share how you see the intersection of win-win culture and creativity within people?
Yes. Well, creativity is, for me, one of the greatest gift. Um, I can share with you what art uh, gives me in order to win-win. See,
Yes.
you know, uh, art gives me that feeling of freedom, no limits, and not being afraid. Because in art, I can express whatever, is in me in that moment. Okay, there's no one putting any barrier. Um, and I think we should have this in order to really create win-win situations. We should have that same approach as I have in art when I'm, you know, painting or uh, and I have applied this a little bit to actually a lot to business development, where I was not scared to explore, say, take risks. Say, no, I can go beyond. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, okay, I step back and try something else. Art gives you that because when you're using art, you're free. So and it actually counts me a lot because when I paint, I completely feel free. So I try to push that same feeling when I'm doing business development. I need to feel free, feel like I have, like I'm painting something in front of me and I can go in every direction and nothing blocks me. Now, whether it's right, wrong, okay, I'll explore it later. But I need that freedom. I need uh, to feel that interconnectedness, not to feel blocked by things. And so art gives me that freedom, and I try to apply that freedom to everything that I do because uh, whether it's business, art itself, my relationships as well, friends, family, you have to, you know, my father, who passed away some years ago, used to always say, live and let live. I do that and learn to respect, the others and give the same boundaries you want, the same and freedom you want to the others all the time because
Yeah.
that helps, the creation, the creativity, uh, and also we're not. I am nothing if there's no one else around me. That will not allow me to create even art. Why would I create a piece of art if not for others to look at, to learn from, to be inspired by, expand, their vision? I would not need art if I were alone.
Yeah.
Even if it would be a pleasurable to, paint. Of course, doesn't go away. But okay, it would be pleasurable for me, but that pleasure would not extend and be shared, and so would lose a lot of the meaning. So that's how I see everything. So I see that interconnectedness in everything. Um,
I love it. You're saying that art is freedom. You're also describing a life that's boldly bold living
yes,
boldly. It's interesting because right now the United States is going through a lot of, no dictators kind of stuff. And I've been really realizing that art is one of the things that dictators take away because it is such an act of freedom
Freedom.
and
Yes. Yes.
inspiration, and it takes people out of the power over power under dynamic, and it creates the power within, which is what our tagline for the show is,
Yes.
developing power within and power between each other and power for one another. And that's what I
Yes.
hear you saying about art is somewhat meaningful by yourself, but it means so much more if it is for others and between others. And I love that. And it's weird because I think a lot of people that think in business terms, think about creativity more, I don't know, not as artistic. But I love that you say I approach all of the business development and challenges with this canvas, this fresh, empty canvas kind of
Yes.
mentality. And that's really what we want to create in other people when we're leading them, is that they can try things and make mistakes within reason, of course, but be able to really have that critical thinking and that initiative that isn't afraid to try something and isn't waiting for to be told everything, because their unique way could be the best way, but they won't know that if they're too afraid.
Yes. And you said something interesting. We should. Uh, okay. We'll make mistakes, of course. Everyone trying a million things. You can make mistakes, and yes, to a certain limit. But really, is there a limit? Because by maybe the most important when you make a mistake, and the canvas again, allows you to do that, is to be able to be creative and turn about that mistake and turn it into learning.
Yes,
That will turn the mistake into learning and in a new creative form. So
yes,
the mistake is actually going to make you improve at the end.
yes.
So it's very important for me at least to keep that mentality completely open and say, everything I do is like a canvas. Okay, I'm going to paint my way, whether it's in business development, relationships, and give everything, with my heart, do my best. I'll make mistakes. I'm human. But I will have to learn from them. I can see them, but from the mistakes, maybe something better will emerge, and others can help me, you know, filter through those mistakes and understand. Uh, that's why that connectedness that I mentioned earlier is very important, because we need others. I really think we need others. And this is funny because usually artists are on their own. Okay,
Yeah.
like I told you, I'm happy just painting. I can ignore everything, but I do need others to open my eyes and to stimulate me and to push me further and make me, it has also happened, for me. I was painting something and then went off and did something else, in business, something, and talking to people. It may say, oh, maybe in that painting I can add this or I can do this from discussing with people. So we're all interconnected, and by being interconnected, we can win-win. Everyone can
Yes.
win-win all the time by closing ourselves, even during difficult situations, by closing yourself, by not expressing uh, the artistic, creative side of you. Uh, you're just hurting ideas and creativity to develop
Yeah, you're
further.
stifling it. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's stifling it. It really makes me think about how we all are as small children. When we're encouraged, we learn to walk, we learn to talk, we learn to learn, we learn to play. When you take a group of kindergartners and you say, "How many of you can sing?" They all raise their hand. I can, pick me. And somehow along the way, it seems like mistakes become such a source of shame, and discouragement that people start to shut down. So, what I love about what you're saying, the tie-in between creativity, expression, it causes us to kind of almost reach back into that magical child within us that remembers that we are creators. We're not the only creators, but we are creators, and we are predominantly the creators of our own lives. So we might as well pick up the paintbrush.
Yes,
And
and mistakes sometimes can lead you to pick up a better paintbrush,
Yes. Yes.
and paint differently maybe, but a better paintbrush at the end. So instead, we exactly what you said. We come out of that childhood, and you linked something very nice. I think creativity is in every kid.
Yes.
Creativity is in every kid. Uh, just observe them play, paint, even draw. They have it. Okay, we
Yeah.
lose it along the way, uh, and
I don't
maybe
know
I'm
that
going to
I
be
don't know that we lose the creativity as much as the confidence.
the confidence. Yes, but we well, by losing the confidence, we're trying not to be. We're limited in our creativity, but
Yes.
we're limited in our creativity, but and and perhaps anchoring to creativity is the way out to uh, holding on to that confidence. Uh, I'm not saying everyone is a painter, but you can be creative in many ways. You can
That's
be,
right. I look
yeah,
at
you
my
can,
own work as
every one of us is an artist in different
yes.
ways. Everyone.
Yes. Yes. As you
So
know, I'm doing the artist way book, and I realized recently, oh, my work is my art, and I love it and I'm passionate about
yes,
it. And I do make mistakes in it, and I'm always learning. And as long as I don't go to shame, my learning is valuable to everyone because then I have a little humility also when other people make mistakes. I can say, hey, don't worry about that. Look at you. You're out there being bold and living your life and being willing to serve even at times where you wish you had done something different. I don't know if this is jumping backwards a little bit too much, but could you tell my audience a little bit more about what you wrote about in your thesis and what was like what felt the most meaningful to you in that story that you told in your thesis?
I wrote about emotional needs during organizational change. And emotional needs are tied not only to our own needs, but are very tied to others. And uh, for example, in the utility company I studied, they were tied to how the behavior of the past, how the love, the continuation, the need to go on for something was not tied to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but was tied mostly to others' needs, basically, because in the historical past of the company, they had been going out helping others, and that culture was very part of them. So they were not known as a profit center; they were known as we're always there to help others. Okay, um, this could not be this model in their head could not be taken away from them at all. Um, and despite the new profit culture, the incentives put in place, because there were, of course, they're saying to themselves, no, we're no matter if our needs are satisfied, we're not helping others anymore. So we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing. Um,
I love
so
so much about what you're saying because what you're describing is what Adler called social interest, which is recognizing that we are powerful and that we can use our power to cause consequences for other people. We're always causing consequences, but how about we do it intentionally in a way that's fulfilling to us? You're also describing a company that tried to use external motivation like incentives and trying to meet those lower Maslow priorities, but it wasn't as fulfilling as those intrinsic motivation um, uh, strategies that were about a sense of meaningfulness, a sense of having choices over things, a sense of feeling proud of the fact that they were a helpful company. And all the money in the world wasn't going to um, give a good contrast to the joy of being a
yeah,
helpful company. It
yeah, they were
reminds
like, no, yes, they were like, no, we're not anymore. We're not anymore that company, and this is was shaking them. And a lot of them, were. I mean, a good group of them attempted suicide. Some succeeded,
of,
unfortunately. I had people that I interviewed crying in front of me. They opened up because I was external, and
wow.
yeah, they were crying.
Well, that makes so much sense because, people can achieve high celebrity, high wealth, high acclaim, and they still commit suicide because something is missing. And in this case, it sounds like the contrast was so depressing to them because they knew what it was like to have real meaning and then to have that taken away. And it almost made their life feel less than worthwhile.
Yes, yes,
Which is really sad. It kind of reminds me of there's a guy in the country of the United States who his name is Dan Price, and he decided to make sure that all of his employees made at least $70,000 so they didn't have to worry about money, so that they could be helpful. And what happened was they became so successful because he didn't want them to worry about buying a house or getting married or any of that. And he also limited the highest paid executives to only 4 times that, which nowadays in America, a lot of people make 400 times more than their lowest paid employees, which is really an inequity.
yeah,
And they became so successful that they had to move several times and they were able to help the homeless people in the communities they moved into. So when you are creative and you are connected, it sounds like everybody flourishes, not only the employees. Is that what your thesis kind of came to? Like you suffer or you flourish based on these higher needs, higher than survival needs.
yes, yes, yes. That
Yeah.
was and it's not been and I think still today in many places it's still not captured strongly enough, and people are still going back to the survival needs. So that feeling, and okay, in my case, it was a historic utility company, but you can see it. You can see the same mechanism interplay in even uh, normal situations, private companies with no historical. Uh, you can see people how they're motivated and how they're not motivated. You can have the biggest incentives. You can become rich but still have nothing because there's something that is missing, and that something for me is the interconnectedness. The and from that interconnectedness, you get creativity, learning, inspiration, support, which is very important. So if you, Judy, if you look at people that have actually been successful, they're people that have been in a supportive environment.
Can you share a little bit more about that? I love that. Because I see this as the hierarchical structures, the win-lose, the power over, the domination, the money first kind of mentality is people still buy into that as being the successful pathway. And you're saying, no, some of the most successful companies have moved out of that. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. Well, first of all, a key word. One has to move away from, hierarchical nature of things, to empowering others. And again, others underlined. Not empowering just yourself, others. For me, companies that have been successful or that can be successful are using this mentality. So, and leaders too. Leaders in first place, you can have a win-win culture only if you're empowering other people at the same time and not yourself.
Yeah.
Empowering yourself goes with the, game. But if you allow others to feel empowered, to speak up, to feel free, to feel free to be creative and accept mistakes and all that, there you're creating a win-win culture because you're allowing them to feel free. And when someone feels free, empowered, uh, creativity comes on its own. You're not afraid to make mistakes. You're not, and even if you do make mistakes, you're pushed to learning from them instead of, oh, I made a mistake, let me hide. I don't have to, uh, because it's in those type of cultures, making mistakes is actually good because it allows you to grow, to see other possibilities. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
in, in most situations, there is not one unique answer. There are many,
Right.
and empowering people allows you to see those many. By being hierarchical, I think people become too limited in what they're seeing. You know, too structured and often make mistakes that are much greater without even realizing that they make mistakes. And by doing so, they are not they don't want to learn. They're ashamed after. So I'm not learning. That's a mistake. But I see only that way. I'm not going to be creative. So I think that the most important thing is to allow others to be free, to be creative, to basically to empower them to accept uh, mistakes, empower them to push their creativity further without staying on them and saying, "Oh no, you should have done this." Let them, be creative, work together, communicate. These are essential things for society, for companies, for societies, for families to work well together.
Yeah,
For
it's so interesting because I do believe that the rise of women in workplace is such a good thing because we're not conditioned to do the power over as much. I don't think a lot of men like the power over structures, but they're conditioned to believe that's what it means to be masculine. And
Yes.
there's a book called The Power Code where they talk about until we change our relationship with power. And that's what you're describing. You're describing a leader who empowers other people, isn't afraid of making mistakes in a way, because the trust is higher. So that leader doesn't have to be so perfect all the time and doesn't have to feel such hidden shame or what they call imposter syndrome. And the employees don't have to feel those things either. And yet, it's so difficult to shift for many people. To what do you think are the steps that leaders could take to start moving in the right direction to foster that psychological safety? What are the practical things that you think could help them create greater connection across their teams?
Well, first of all, be humble. In first place, uh, you know, practice what you're preaching, basically. Be humble, admit mistakes, but admit mistakes and push creativity. Let the others participate and help you overcome the mistakes. But be just simply the greatest thing, Judy, is being humble. That can increase trust immensely. Be humble what you're doing. Say, I don't know this answer. Can you one of you team members, can you help me? What should we do? Let the others participate. Let the others be the creative players. Don't impose. Listen.
Yeah.
That's another important thing. Listen to others. I think a lot of what the world is missing nowadays is listening. We're so rushing into our own, thing that no one is listening to anyone else. So as a leader, this becomes even more important. You have to listen to others because sometimes, that listening can open huge doors. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because at the time that I was learning what I do was when I was raising my children. And by the time they were 5, they got to take a turn running the family meetings that we did every week. And it was important and challenging at times because I'm a sort of a, efficiency kind of a, person, even as a mom. And I had to learn how to not steamroll a 5-year-old. I had to learn how to be a good listener to a 5-year-old and all of the kids at their different ages. But what it taught them was that they mattered. And it taught them that I didn't have all the answers and that I wanted them to be able to have a say in things. And that's what we try to do when we go into organizations. We have the levels mix on purpose. Like the CEO might be in the same group as a brand new receptionist. And a lot of times the leaders balk at that. They kind of want to find a justification for just keeping in their own little groups. I think it's because there is that fear of being seen as less than perfect. And yet, I think it's what endears us to one another is to be real with one another and to hear each other as equals. So I love how you're describing that as humility. There's humility in doing that. I don't know that I was always so humble because there were times I just wanted to take over with my kids, but it taught me a lot about what it really means to be agile. Because here nowadays, with all these new technologies, people need to know how to be collaborators with each other. And if they have never had an opportunity to do that in mixed levels, they won't know how to do it to create new solutions. So I love that humility and asking for help.
Yes, asking for help, listening to others, it's very important. That
Yeah.
will increase trust, whether in companies, in families, uh, and once you have trust, well, creativity and going, ahead is the only possibility at that point because when you trust someone, you feel you feel that they're open to you, that they accept your mistakes, accept your way of seeing things, and allow you to grow. So employees, I think, must feel that. It's very important for employees to feel that trust, to say, okay, if I make a mistake, I'm not going to be judged, or I'm not going to be stopped, or you know, and transparency. Again, everything. It helps. We live in a world where, unfortunately, hierarchy still dominates in different ways. Because people want to feel that power. But at the end of the day, Judy, is that power necessary? Really, no, because it hurts you. In first place, it hurts the person that is showing and putting power to play. Uh,
Yeah, I think it's interesting because we always talk about in our work that even when you have win-lose, the winners, quote unquote, don't always feel like winners because they have to like defend their position on the top of the mountain, and it's interesting because a lot of times what I think is happening, and maybe you could speak to this as well, is we praise people who are higher performers and almost look at people that aren't immediately in the same camp as though they deserve to be like let go. Whereas really we're all in the same boat together. We all
yes,
need to be able to help each other rise together. I remember when I was learning how to be a better parent, I was taught no matter what happens, positive or negative, put everyone in the same boat because it's a dynamic, it's a group dynamic that what is occurring. And sometimes when you make somebody the good guy, you're actually making them pitted against the people that are lesser than them because you're acting as if that has to be rewarded and this other thing has to be punished.
yes,
And it sets people unconsciously against each other. Do you see that
yes,
as well?
yes. I see that. Oh, yes, many times, Judy, and I think that is not really uh, what interconnectedness should really be.
Right.
It's not praising one type of behavior or one type of person over another. Uh, it's more letting them understand that everyone is complementary to everyone else.
Yes.
That we cannot do. I have no meaning, like I said before. If I'm painting, my painting has no meaning if it's not observed by others.
Right.
So I can enjoy painting. I'm not saying I'm not going to enjoy painting, but I won't get as much from it as if it's shared and as if my painting is interconnected to everyone else in that way. You
Yeah.
know, it doesn't become my painting. It's a painting that it has value to me, but because Judy can look at it and Judy can tell me how she feels, for example, So everything is like that.
Yeah,
So
it's kind of like the best of DEI because diversity means we're not the same. And and so if I see someone else's behavior different than my own, instead of feeling like I'm better or I'm worse, it's I'm different and let me see what's good about their art. And that's hard for people because if you're praised for your art almost as though it is good and the other person's is bad, you can see it pits people against each other.
yes,
And yeah, and then we miss out on the gifts of that other person because we're so busy looking at what's wrong with them instead of what's right with them.
and this also hurts fairness, to be honest. Uh,
Yes.
this really hurts fairness and also makes us blind to what else can be good in one person. not everyone is equal. So maybe they don't shine on being artists, but they can be creative in other way, you know.
Right.
And
Right.
we're missing it simply because we're always comparing and always uh, putting one person or one way of doing things vis-a-vis another, which is not necessarily a good thing. That's again where creativity enters into place because it makes you see things differently. Like, okay, this could be a good thing, but wait a second, there's that way, I could do it that way too. And maybe, and then you see how everything really comes into play. And there's never a better way to do things than another. Uh, as long as, the most important is that there's trust, fairness, transparency. These are key in any relationship, whether organizational, personal. Yeah. I think you have to show what a leader should do is show that in first place that he's fair or he or her is fair, he or she's fair, and also open to listening and trusting what others can give back. And not saying I have all the solutions, I have the right way, or I know the person that does those things right, and the rest of you don't. That is not true. Anyone can, given given that trust and that creativity and that empowerment, can come up with positive feedback. You
Yeah,
know,
not only a leader that has that mentality, but modeling it because the modeling then is, hey, we all have something to offer. It's
yeah,
not,
walk the talk. In other words,
yes, walk
yes.
the talk. I remember when I learned what I now teach in my work is that teamwork is not just everybody trying to achieve a goal. It's helping everybody be wildly successful in the team. And I remember at first being really hit by that because I was praised a lot for my accomplishments. And so when I was on a team, I was always focused on what I was bringing to it. I still struggle with that sometimes. But when I remember that there's more fulfillment in making sure that everybody feels that way on the team, then I'm actually happier and I'm really committed to causing good things for everyone, including myself, but not just myself. And I think that's often missing as a real predominant message. It kind of moves us in the direction of talking about purpose and values and being ourselves and being ourselves at our best. Can you tell me any either stories or examples of ways that people operate real specifically and clearly from purpose and values and authenticity that you've come across? Or the contrast of when they don't.
Well, I in in that answering that, I will actually have to focus on myself, and I don't like it, but I will do it. Uh, yes, sometimes, when you're when you have certain values and a purpose, it can have positive and negative consequences. Obviously, I'm a very value-driven, purpose-driven person. So what I believe in, if something has to follow certain values, if that something sidetracks or goes off and you're not following those values, then for me, I start questioning, the uh, possibilities you have. I will always leave freedom. As a person, I will always leave freedom, but I question it myself. So, an example, well, when values and purpose, when you feel that values and purpose are lacking in an organization, and correct me if I am off track, or in a group of people, a team. Um, from my own experience, I think the best thing you can do is continue being yourself, follow your values, purpose, uh, despite any counterbacks that will happen. Um, but don't lose track and don't let that and don't let what is happening around you sidetrack you from those values. Because at the end of the day, sticking to the purpose-driven, value-driven uh, ideas you have, uh, no matter the outcome, you will feel well with yourself. Uh,
Yes.
you
Yes.
feel well with
I
yourself.
can totally
And,
see how we're lacking that in the United States right now in a lot of our
and
leaders.
if you, yes, and well, if you're feeling well with yourself, that will shine onto others.
Yes.
So if you get caught into some people will get caught into, other purposes and other values that are driving the game ahead or the situation ahead. But if you don't and you stick to your own, at the end of the day, even through ups and downs, not only will you feel well with yourself because you continued believing what you wanted to believe in, or what you thought right, or what was the right direction in your head, but you also feel that you have not betrayed the rest, because it's very, Judy, today's society where a lot of like cattle's following everyone, everyone else, and we don't fight because we've been trained to be scared, afraid. If we step out of, the no, and I'm not saying, you can end up in very difficult situations, but you have to do it for yourself and also for the others in the long run, because uh, and trust me, people will see it. The right people will see and will understand. The wrong people, okay, there's always wrong people. I don't mean wrong that they're not good people, but people that are blind in that second will eventually learn, hopefully, because in life that's another thing. The only way the only way you can go ahead is always keeping a mentality of growth and learning. We For mistakes, because if we don't have that, I mean, everyone does mistakes, like we've said before. I do a million, in but I go back. Oh, I should have done it perhaps this way. I want to learn. Let me go and see. So I have to do this better. So we have to keep that mentality. But if you are not true, if you don't stick to your purpose or values, and you try to shift, at the end of the day, you also hurt your learning. You also hurt others along the way. So it's key for me to keep always a values driven, purpose driven mentality. And I've seen it. I cannot go into the details, but I've seen it play all the time. This, when it's so easy to be pushed away because you see that you can gain more by being pushed away from values and purpose. You certainly can gain more. But at the end of the day, if you're not true to yourself, that will come like a boomerang. Um,
Yeah, I completely agree. I think what I hear you saying is that it takes a lot of courage to maintain our authenticity, and living from our purpose, our deepest
yes.
purpose and values. It's really interesting because I've been doing this process where I'm journaling every morning. And I realized there was this one person that I had been in a relationship with that I ended it horribly. And I think it's because I am working on learning from my mistakes, living to my purpose and values, that I actually wrote him a letter and just said, I am so sorry for the way I ended things with you because you didn't deserve that. Like I just was kind of cold and dismissive as opposed to just trying to, leave on a really good note. And I could see all the reasons I had done that, but I wasn't yet willing to see that it was against my own values, my own purpose, and my own conscience. And being able to write that letter made me feel so much better. Because when we do really take the time to examine our lives, where we're out of alignment, we are hurting ourselves
Yes.
and we have hurt others. And when we can do our best to make that right, we can make a positive difference. Because I really believe those things we do that are wrong can also be very harmful to people. And we don't know how much it's hurting them. So we have the obligation to go back and self-correct. But we can't do that if we don't even embrace what our purpose and values are to begin with. So it is, it's a very big act of courage, I think.
And again, you spoke about interconnectedness. Yes, we are. Anything I do wrong, for example, can hurt someone next to me. I can see it or not see it. And another important thing is that we must always try to understand others. Because, okay, it goes beyond just, they could have had a bad day, so they're reacting that way. Sometimes there's so much more. And if we stop and say, okay, uh, I reacted that way towards them, maybe they're, under, it's not just a bad day for them. Maybe there's something in their life that is not making them happy or making them see things, right way. But talk, talk to them. That's why I say communication is key. Understanding is key. Uh, Empowering other people is key. Uh, and what is the most key is the connectedness thing. Everything is interconnected. Every system is. So we should not act like, okay, I do things my way and it's not going to affect anything or anyone around us. Everything affects everything else.
Yeah, yeah. It's really interesting because I saw a video of a woman who had had a near-death experience, and when she met God, and she said that two things were shown to her. One was when she just helped pay for somebody's groceries that didn't have quite enough money, and she thought that was no big deal. She was kind of like, "Well, God, I've done bigger things than that." And what God showed her was all of the people that this woman then helped down the road because of her kindness and her understanding. And then he showed her a picture of somebody that she never gossiped about, was never mean to, but it was a coworker. And she just judged her for being less than conscientious. But she never said anything to her or did anything to her. And he said, what you don't understand is just the way you held her in your mind had an effect. And then he showed her all of the experiences that woman had gone through, and that it was even unbelievable that she had even been in a service at all from the kind of life she had. So what you're saying is so powerful, that interconnectedness. We are almost to the end already. I can't even believe it. But Manuela, if you were to say one kind of message to the listeners to leave them with about what it means to have win-win, what it means to unlock human potential with others, with yourself, within organizations, what would you like to leave them with?
Maybe the key thing is that I really believe any potential we have is relational. If we feel seen and supported, we grow, we are creative. If not, well, you have the answer by yourself. Uh, and most of all, keeping this in mind is be that presence for others, be that support, be those eyes for the others. Uh,
That's awesome. That's beautiful. And I completely agree. I think that the new intelligence that's most important is relational intelligence, whether you call it social intelligence, but it's relational intelligence. And honestly, Manuela, I don't know of anyone that I personally know that does that better than you do. And the way that it happens for me and what creates win-win within me and inspires me is how I do feel seen and heard by you. It makes me want to see others more, to listen more, to be available more, and to get in their shoes more. And I really appreciate you coming on to talk about win-win in such a relational way. So thank you very much for helping me and our audience and all the people that you help to unlock the human potential in each person. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Judy, for this opportunity and everyone else. I hope you listen and remember to be that person, be that support, be those eyes. It will pay off in life and it will make everyone happy.
Yeah, thank you. You've been listening to When Everyone Wins, where we're shifting power over and under to power within and between. I'm Judy Ryan, your transformation talk radio host. Tune in each second and fourth Monday at 9 a.m. Pacific time to learn new concepts and tools and listen to conversations I have with thought leaders and change agents. You'll also see real-world applications of what I'm covering so that you experience the power of the concepts and tools I share. In each episode, I bring you my knowledge from decades in workplace culture transformation and leadership development as the founder and CEO of LifeWorks Systems. I invite you to call in with your unique stories and questions. The path to ensure that everyone wins depends on our ability as people to create a life we love and help others do the same. For more information, visit lifeworksystems.com.